Of all the characters in The Tempest, Caliban is the character who is barely human in appearance and who is often described as a monster by the other characters based on his appearance. He is considered not honored with a human shape, described as a moon calf, half fish, half monster with a very ancient and fish-like smell. So as a result of his appearance, he is often treated poorly, and inaccurate judgments are made about his character based on his outward appearance. Now, of the characters in the play, Caliban comes across as one of the most childlike, naive, gullible, emotional, and the character who could be considered one of the most vulnerable because he has no real idea of the motives of others. So he's easily exploited. Now, if we compare Caliban to characters like Antonio and Sebastian, they could be considered the real monsters because of their actions. They lack humanity. Forget what they look like. They might look human, but they lack humanity and have far less of an emotional engagement with any other characters or with the environment than Caliban. Now, yes, Caliban does set about to kill Prospero, but we have to consider Caliban's motives and compare them to characters like Antonio. Caliban has a sound reason for being angry with Prospero. Caliban believes that the isle is his birthright. Prospero arrived on the island, and using his magical powers, he enslaved Caliban. Prospero, yes, and Miranda, they claim to have been courteous to Caliban, and they tried to educate him, but this is not something that Caliban celebrates. He curses the language, and that's all he sees the language fit for, is cursing that has been taught to him. And he says, the red plague rid you for learning me your language, because that language is a symbol of his entrapment, his disenfranchisement, because when Prospero and Miranda came along, he innocently accepted them. He showed them all the beautiful places on the island, and he even says to Prospero at one point, I loved thee, and look at how you treat me now. So there's a lot of empathy actually for Caliban, because yes, this island is his, it's his birthright, and right, he is a complex character. We have to consider some of his actions. For instance, his attempt to rape Miranda that is spoken about. But then we also, balance that against what we learn about Caliban, and we see that he has this childlike view, naive, and such a love for his island that he wants to people his island with Calibans. So, because of this love of the island and sensitivity of spirit, he's a character who's very easily manipulated. And, right, he's now forced to live underground in a cave and restricted to a certain part of his island. And then he has to obey Prospero's commands. And if he fails to do so, he is tortured. So there is a feeling, and we can certainly debate this, that Caliban is right in thinking his enslavement is monstrously unjust. No, we have so much pity for Caliban when we hear how afraid he actually is of Prospero and Prospero's ability to use magic to torment him. He says things like, "Do not torment me, prithee. I'll bring my wood home faster." Now that's just pitiful. When Trinculo and Stefano, when they exploit him, we see how he kneels and worships before the brave god. Okay, Stefano, who's given him this celestial liquor, alcohol, and there's a sense of his innocence and his vulnerability, and what easy prey he becomes to Stefano and Trinculo. And he almost repeats the same mistakes that he made with Prospero. He says, "I'll show thee the best springs. I'll pluck thee berries. I'll fish for thee." So really, he hasn't learned much from his interaction with Prospero. He shared his knowledge with Prospero. Prospero became master of the island. He's now sharing his knowledge, wanting to share his knowledge with Stefano, and then he's even prepared to lick the shoe of Stefano. And this is why I just cannot see how we could ever consider Caliban as a monster, despite his monstrous idea of murder, which he's never realized. We have to look at his strong feelings of disenfranchisement, the fact that he feels dethroned, the way he's been treated because of his appearance by all other characters. Okay, he's described as disproportioned in his manners as in his shape. There's an attempt to enforce an idea of civilization on him that is not wanted. And he has a genuine feeling of betrayal and this childlike sense of a longing to belong. And he's angry that he's now trapped in this hard rock. And he's kept away from the rest of his island. So he's been groomed for servitude. His autonomy has been taken away from him. He becomes such a tragic figure when he's drunk and trusting of the two fools, and ultimately at the end of the play his punishment is Prospero says, "Go and clean my room, go and clean my cell," and you just get a sense of humiliation heaped on this character, and there is a feeling of strong injustice. His appearance is the basis for everyone's condescension and critique of him. Although we do know Miranda, she has just cause to be angry with Caliban, so we've also got to be careful of how we speak of Caliban. However, there is this pervasive sense of innocence and sensitivity when it comes to Caliban that certainly makes him as a character one that an audience is actually prepared to empathize with. Fortunately, the island does become Caliban's at the end of the play as Prospero returns as Duke of Milan. So there is a sense of that justice at the end. But if you ever get any sort of essay topic where you are presented with the idea of Caliban as monstrous, please, I think it would be a great injustice to this character and to Shakespeare if you didn't see the nuances of his character. I have a few slides that could help you to prepare for your second English examination. You can pause on each slide and then just read through this information. You know most of this already, but it's really useful just to remind yourself of the structure of the literary essay. Here is an example of a plan. Remember that there are no marks allocated to the plan, but it's a great idea just to think about where you're going with your essay before you just start rambling. Right, I'm not going to speak for the rest of this presentation. You can just pause and read these ideas about Caliban, and hopefully that will assist you with your exam.